Township Board of Trustees regular meeting here on Tuesday, July 16th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Burkholder?
Here, Ms. McKee had another engagement this evening. She let me know ahead of time. Mr. North, if you'd like to come forward, please, and give the invocation for us. Thank you. Please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, we enter your throne room here today, humble and honored to be even here in your presence, Lord. Heavenly Father, fill this room with your Holy Spirit, with your guiding hand, your presence, and your light, Lord. The world around us needs your light to fill the darkness. We're a nation who is falling apart because we've lost you, Lord. We've lost who has brought us here, has got us to this place, and we need to return to you, Lord. Bring peace into our minds. Bring a sense of understanding and compatibility between one another here, and that everything that is said today will be spoken with tender authority and with you in mind. Lord, we pray for our nation. We pray for our world. We pray for those who are suffering, whether it be by hunger or injury or financially. Anyone in need, Lord, be with them. And Lord, be there for those who don't know that you love them. Jesus, you love your people. And we're honored to celebrate you here on earth. As we move forward from this day and in the coming days, weeks, months, and years moving forward, may we walk in your light and be more like you each and every day. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So move for discussion.
I'll second it. Discussion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to add agenda items that had been previously requested, but were not put on there. Most of them could be handled within a quick minute. And I have another copy of that. Let's see. I just go quickly on that. Conversation on the desk system of the zoning department, passwords and logins, records request production, prosecutor opinions, Etna deputy evaluation, status of the damaged tire and refugee, fireworks and community events, procedure manual minutes, communication challenges, and water district request to add Jersey and Union Township.
I'll second the motion for discussion. Mr. Evans, some of these items are already can be covered under some of the reports that we have already on here. You've got a total of 18 items, and as you know, we're very short-handed. We're still trying to catch up on the minutes. Some of these I have added already. I added Lakeland Hills, I've added the NCA, the refugee road I can do under the road report. The minutes discussion can be discussed under the minutes. And some of these items have already been discussed. I will amend your amendment to add the one item of the desk system. We've already decided on that, but I'll make that amendment to your amendment. Is there a second?
There's not.
Okay.
And if you're finished discussing. I do believe these are important things to touch on. Again, most of them can be handled very quickly, and as you know, this is the only opportunity we can have to legally discuss anything regarding this township. While some may do it outside meetings, that's not appropriate. So this is our only opportunity. It has nothing to do with short-staffed or anything like that, but there's a lot of things that we need to make sure we're on, including the last one I mentioned, the water district and their attempt to add Jersey and Union Township to their board. And I believe we have an interest in that. So again, we cannot legally discuss this outside the meeting, and this is our only opportunity to do so, and each one would barely take a minute or two.
Well, I disagree with that. They most oftentimes take longer. A lot of them are to argue. A lot of them have to do with a lot of the criticisms that you have about the way the township is being run, and we are short-staffed. Part of the president's job is to present a reasonable agenda. Not that these things can't be discussed later, but we have a pretty full agenda tonight. I'm willing to add the water and sewer district, or if you want to discuss that under trustee comments, but other than that, some of these other things are already on the agenda, so I won't be supportive of the amendment unless it's to add the water and sewer district.
The one thing I would mention that you said that we could do it under reports, and that's not being transparent. I think items have to be listed separately. And again, these are just fireworks. I'm getting requests from people, are we looking at alternatives? Are we just not doing it this year? And I can't discuss that again with you outside this board, so it'd be a quick discussion so people know. So,
Roll call on the amendment, please.
Mr. Evans?
yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
No, motion fails. Roll call on the agenda as presented.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes. Motion fails, but we will proceed with the agenda as presented.
How is that possible?
It's possible because I checked with the Licking County prosecutor, and the prosecutor advised that even though we adopted Robert's Rules of Order, there is no provision in the Ohio Revised Code that even requires us to have an agenda, let alone to adopt one. I anticipated that this might happen, so I wanted to check with the prosecutor. It's important that we move forward with this agenda, that we take care of the business at hand for the township, and that we pay our bills, and that we approve purchase orders so the business of the township can move forward.
And what happened with all people are supposed to be copied in on communications with the prosecutor?
I actually called the prosecutor on that and had a personal conversation with that just recently, because I figured this would happen and I didn't want this meeting to be obstructed by a single trustee.
The president.
That's your opinion.
You've obstructed
Is
these
there a
items.
motion? You're out of order, Mr. Evans. Is there a motion to table the June 18th, 2024 minutes? So moved, because those minutes are not ready for presentation. Is there a second?
I'll second, but why put it on the agenda if we're not even going to address it?
I put it on the agenda so that we know where we are as far as trying to catch up the agenda. Our administrative assistant is still out, although she is working remotely, and she is going to work to try to get these minutes caught up so that they're more timely and that we can get those on the website. As far as minutes, Mr. Evans, you did have some other questions about the minutes that you did have on your agenda item, so if you'd like to discuss that at this time, I'll give you that opportunity under minutes and the way they're being prepared.
Okay. Again, I don't think that's the transparent way to do this. However, again, we're getting behind on the minutes because they're being directed to be verbatim. And again, we can summarize, we can do all that so we can timely deliver these minutes to the public and the board. I don't understand why we're doing that. We moved to the new system so that the secretary or whoever's doing the minutes won't have to re-listen to the entire meeting, but that again is what's occurring. So it's just, I don't think efficient or needed. And again, a summary that is not swayed one way or the other, and that was the issue before, would be more appropriate, I believe.
Well, Mr. Evans, I actually concur with you on that, and I've talked to an administrative assistant, but I want to correct you on a couple items. First of all, she was not directed to do verbatim, but since she's on the new system, she's still trying to learn what's the proper balance, getting enough detail so that there aren't complaints that the minutes are too vague, but yet striking that balance to where they're not overly long. So our administrative assistant has been out since June 26th and has not returned yet, but is working part-time remotely, and I intend to continue to work with her. So your observation is noted, but it's nothing intentional. It's something that's going to take time. The system is new. She's still learning it. Other people are learning it, and it's just going to take some time.
I would disagree, because all it is putting the verbiage in the boxes and choosing to do verbatim versus a summary. I think that's pretty simple. So I think that we can start doing that now.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes, now's the time for public comments. If you'd like to speak at this time, please come to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address, and please direct your comments to the board, not to the audience. Is there anyone that'd like to come forward at this time? Mr. Johnson.
Is it on? Here we good? Okay.
No.
Jeff Johnson? It's not?
Pull it up.
Yeah, maybe if you
got
could. There you
Oh, there you
go.
go.
That's better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jeff Johnson, 9173 Summit Road. We're here to discuss Lakeland Hills. It was on the agenda, flooding between the two lakes across Lakeland Drive. Just to know, we have 2 other neighbors that are here, the 2 landowners that joins to. I'm here. My wife has lived there for 72 years, right across from, since 72, right across from that. So she's seen everything. If you have any questions or discussion, feel free to ask them to us. Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead. Anyone else at this time wants to come up and?
All right, I don't want to step on Mark's feet here if he's going to apologize for the profane outbreak of last week for the people that were here late at the meeting, but this is a version of what was published in the print edition of the Newark Advocate. Etna Township trustee Mark Evans unveiled his true self exiting an executive session on July 2nd, 2024. In a profanity-laced rant, Trustee Evans showed his seething contempt for the people of Etna and common decency in general. His conduct belies the decorum he demands when I laugh out loud when he says things like, "We are not trying to stop development in Etna." The pious preacher of proper administration let loose with a rapid-fire profane rhetoric that would make a sailor cringe. In his most recent outburst, Evans comes out of the executive session screaming profane language directed at Trustee McKee. In his current blow-up, he included all his regular rant words: shameful, improper, she's despicable. Think Daffy Duck. Burkholder finally reined him in and ended the meeting. Of course, McKee is no fan of Trustee Evans and often refers to him as the devil. Evans' hatred for McKee and his list of residents disagreeing with him is palpable. In a publicly released text about the 25 election, Evans said about McKee, "I hope she and her family can take the pressure." Is Trustee Evans returning to his extreme bullying, attacking other trustees and seemingly forgetting the township just paid $80,000 for his bullying a few months ago? Since January, Trustee Burkholder's weak leadership has enabled Trustee Evans' harmful actions. Indeed, we must feel sorry for and pray for Trustee Evans as an angry, emotionally distraught adult. Yet we cannot overlook his destruction of Etna's culture, its employees, and its finances. John Hanson, Etna, Ohio. Thank you.
And I'd like to respond to that. I repeated what Ms. McKee said to me, and if Mr. Burkholder will stand up, he did hear that she called us little white boys, and the rest. So that happened.
But this is the problem. You two run everything by your emotions, and you won't accept help because somebody has said
I'm sorry,
something.
I responded to you, but that is what Ms. McKee said to us.
You have 1 minute, Mr. Hanson. Go ahead.
Okay.
You had 2 minutes, and you got another minute if you wanted to comment.
What he's talking about and what I'm talking about are two different things. So he's talking about how you two are emotionally running everything. Take the fireworks, for example. You won't allow that to be a gift from Sabatino because he said mean things about you. And that's what you said at the last meeting. You, Mr. Burkholder, roll back the tape. It's endemic with Evans. He has to destroy everything that's not his idea, whether it's health insurance or anything else, taking down Carlisle's picture, removing people's pictures from the brochure for the so-called township administrator you're theoretically looking for. So that is why you're having a hard time hiring people, because you've broken the trust with the public. There is no trust. And I hope you looked at that book I gave you, The Speed of Trust. I would give one to Evans, but I assume if it's not on Facebook, he's not interested.
Okay, that's your time. I will.
Thank you.
I will correct you. The reason I did not support the fireworks is because the lack of cooperation that we've had. But the other reason is too that is not a gift from Mr. Sabatino. In fact, the township, I believe, paid $13,000 last year. So I want to correct the record on that. That is. And as far as motions, I've done my best to mediate between Trustee Evans and Trustee McKee. They have to be responsible for their own actions and behavior, and I base my decisions on the facts and the evidence presented and what is the best policy for the community. Now, every resident has a right to disagree with the positions I take, but I have backed it up with facts and figures. I haven't necessarily sided with one trustee 100% of the time. I decide on the issue, and I think that's been evidenced by the record. Is there anybody else that would like to speak at this time? Just come to the podium. You've got 3 minutes. And again, state your, I'm sorry, Mr. Hanson, I couldn't, let me finish. Just state your name and address and address the board. Is there anybody else at this time? Very good. We will move on. Road department reports. We had Lakeland Hills. Mr. Copley, I know we briefly talked about the road condition there. Would you just give us a little bit of an update? You've examined that. Mr. Evans, you wanted this on the agenda. Is there something you wanted to address with that regarding the road condition between those two ponds?
Well, yeah, just in general, about the it has washed out again this year. I know the HOA is supposed to lower it. I believe one of the residents said 4 inches. I heard 6 inch. Mr. Copley said 6 inches. However, I don't think there's been any calculation that the water can actually flow through there sufficiently to negate the overflow of the road. It's destroying the road. It's washing it out. It's only a 24-inch opening. I did some rough calculations. That's a 2.78 acre lake, which is, I believe, around 150,000 square feet. In a rain, that 24-inch opening, even if you have a 1-inch head, 6-inch head, whatever, I don't believe can handle it. However, I think it needs to be calculated, not just guessed, but I think a simple solution would be some oblong culvert pipe under the road between the level of the lake and the road, and just have that as the access to go through. I think that would solve everything. You wouldn't have to drop the lake. I mean, you can still, but even if you drop that lake, I don't think a 24-inch opening is enough to convey all that water.
Mr. Copley, we did some work out there. Could you give us a quick update?
Yeah, we went over there and we put an overflow pipe and we put riprap along the edge of the road. When we had the meeting with the county engineer, and there's quite a few other people there, and everybody was on agreement that we would put the overflow pipe on the other side of the street, and we cut reliefs in it so the water would drain and it would flow through the big stone and it would run into the pipe. But, you know, those are private lakes, they're not the township's problem. I mean, the asphalt, the road, the right of ways are an issue. So, I mean, I don't see why the township has to pay for somebody to put pipe under the road. It's the residents of Lakeland Hills, it's their problem to maintain it.
And my question on the pipe on the east side of the road, that's trying to capture water before the bushes and get into that pond, but it's already crossed the road. It's already, so I don't see what purpose that was. I wasn't a part of any of that, wasn't allowed to be. But again, I think it's simple fix that. Number one, we should have a calculation, either the engineer should be able to calculate that pretty easy, how much water can be conveyed versus how much water is being drained, because if you look at the topography of the area, all that land north is flowing into that pond. There's a lot of area that pond's taken, and that 124 inch, it can't handle it. Is it 36 inch? But even that, I don't think it can, it's designed to handle, and is it 36 inch all the way through?
It's a concrete bell tile, added a piece on top.
Has any calculations been done?
Mr. Johnson, if you want to come up again, I'll be more than happy to give you a little bit extra time if you've got some observation and details that might be helpful.
Yeah,
Thank
so-
you.
Has there been ever any calculation that
Not that I'm aware of. It was, like I said, my wife said, lived there since '72. It's always floated across the river. It's the washout that we never had, 'cause there's always been grass, and now there's other things on that side, and it's been washed at different times from different areas, from different things that have happened over there. We had a pipe that was plugged up in the ditch, which Mr. Cecil, he opened that pipe up. Brother came over, put an extension on it to get it out away from the ditch, which allowed that to flow out, which was consider what size you put in there? 12 inches, a 12-inch pipe. That solved a lot of problems. Water was coming down towards Lakeland Hills from Summit Road. It goes in that pipe, now it comes out. We also raised the grate on an extra, like an overflow type thing, and there was a ditch that was trenched. But he came over and trenched a little bit along the edge of the road there that runs it into like an auxiliary catch basin over there. It was getting stuck full of tree branch and stuff, so we lifted it up to allow more water. I've sat there and watched that water come across, raise. It goes over, the big pipe can't take it. It goes over the auxiliary area that we had. It takes it till it starts getting plugged.
Mhm.
Once it starts getting plugged, then it comes over the road.
right?
So one of the suggestions I thought was we did the dam over at, or not the dam, but the wash, the overflow wash that we put over at the park. Remember that? Like before I left office, that guy wanted to put that overflow
Right.
piece on that pond.
Right.
Yeah, well, that same rock configuration could be put as an overflow along that bank at some place too. That way, if there was, it would go through there and not wash the side of the road out.
But I think I know, talked to Mr. Copley, that the problem with the larger rocks or that against the road, that you need it packed because that water will still wash out that base because the base is gravel and that. So,
Right, but those are like, did you see what they put in over there? Have you seen that when they have those square concrete pads that are all meshed together?
yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
mentioned a year ago, that
Right,
we
exactly.
should be tied together, put in there solid. I mean, even you could pour concrete against it. But again, I just think this is an ongoing issue. Again, residents sent me photos this year, I think it was April
Yeah.
3rd, it washed out. And another concern was the asphalt tailings being washed into the pond there. So I think we just need to once and for all solve it. And I really think the oblong culvert pipes, that's probably the easiest because you only have to remove a small section of the road, put them in there, open, it'll just go under the
it'd be
road.
the auxiliary overflows. where you're saying.
Auxiliary, the other ones, it'll get that and then go.
Has Soil and Water looked at this? Have they been out there?
They have,
Yeah, they have. I mean, they had, what, 5 or 6 different suggestions, and we tried 5 of them on at least.
this
so.
is their suggestion.
Yeah, there's a whole list of stuff on there that they had, and some of those things we've been corrected, or you guys, the township's corrected them also, so.
Do you know the purpose of the pipe on the east side that is just above the bushes that goes into the pond? Because again, that seems like it's
There's one that
just,
doesn't go anywhere. It's just a concrete pipe sticking out, it really doesn't have any flow. It
There's a-
used to go across the road, but they lowered it.
there's an
He's
L.
talking about the new one, Jeff.
The green one?
That they just put in.
The overflow, yeah, the overflow pipe.
Well, that was the one that Bubba put in.
Bubba just put in.
There's a concrete one, Bubba, yours is blue, I think. The green one is the one that came from the ditch on the south side of Lakeland Drive.
Because I just don't see the purpose of that one because the water's already
The green one or the blue?
Cross the road.
Yes, okay.
across the road, almost hit the bushes, and then it's trying to get it to the
Well, they thought we
pond,
would-
where it's gonna go to the pond
Well, the
anyway.
engineer thought that we could capture that water and hit them bigger rocks, catch that water and flow into that ditch, therefore alleviate the flow across the road. It would come across, but it would go right into that and not wash the bank. The bank washes what they were trying to avoid.
Is your community
This is-
opposed to cutting down the overflow? Or is that gonna cause other problems by lowering the pond?
It would cause other problems, because right now the pond's really shallow on the other end.
Gotcha.
So it would almost turn to land over there.
Okay.
That's why we kept up for a while. The overflow lowering, you can lower it by, there's ridges in that, because it's a double walled
Corrugated,
corrugated pipe, that's what it is in there.
okay.
So it's a smooth one inside, corrugated outside. The whole thing was falling in, that bell tile, there was stuff, but it was all falling in, so we sleeved it with that to make it a perfect 3 foot all the way through there, and poured concrete around it to hold that spill that was all falling apart. We did that probably 5 years ago. And then we put one of those angle type things, like a peak, which is a top of rocket kind of thing on there, and they had too many rungs and the stuff was getting caught. And we wanted to take it out, but we don't want to take it out because the kids get sucked down in there or fall down in there. So we're kind of stuck with that. So then another guy made that top that's on there now, which in my opinion, the top of that doesn't have any grade on it. So when the water starts plugging up, when it gets plugged up around it, has no way to go down through the top of it either.
That's why I was wondering what the area was on the side, if it
Yeah.
equaled the top down, it might be constricted.
Well,
It handles it until we get stuck, and then they cut a bunch of trees on the island and then cleaned the brush, and it washed down too. So we've had multiple issues trying to control that. Some
Well,
are
thank
our
you.
fault, some are just.
If you have anything else, why don't you forward that to the township and Mr. Copley, and let's
Okay.
revisit it and see if there's a more permanent solution. But thanks for the feedback and the fact that you've had it wash out again in April.
Yes.
Thank you. We had a meeting on the Pike Street update, and we had to get in our update, but also our request for additional funding from the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission to build the gap of approximately 550 feet to the property line of the High Point development, which comes out on Pike Street. We recalculated that. We also talked about some of the street lighting that'll be at the intersections, what kind we want. We also talked about the planting of trees, and that additional cost is approximately $627,000. So the project went from 3.286 million to 3.913. After discussion with the engineer and also Bill Lozier with the Transportation Improvement District, we thought we were pleased that the number was not higher. So we had to give an update and then what they call a screening application to be considered. And if that committee at MORPC decides that they want to fund that project, we'll have to have a more complete application, which then will be subject to their approval. So I wanted to give an update on that. We also, go ahead.
Were you, same thing or new time? Got something on that. I did have a question. Again, I saw in the email, Mr. Lozier said he updated the application the best he could as he understood the process.
Right.
The funding request as submitted is a little fuzzy. I'm concerned that we're not really doing these applications properly to be able to get those. Is there anybody else besides TID that we can use or resources on this? I know we didn't get the capital grant on that, so I think the submissions, how they're written,
The capital
plays
grant on,
the capital grant that we put in for the park.
what are you talking about? We're talking about Pike Street.
Right, but I'm saying it's the submission process that makes a difference of how you submit it.
Yes.
If it's a little fuzzy, if it's a little,
I'd be more than happy to address that because I too asked the question. The TID did the original grant. application along with township staff. And then when it came to this, I said, well, who's going to do it? And so we worked with Verandis, the engineer, and I worked with Mr. Lozier. And I don't know all the workings of how Mr. Lozier is compensated by the County Transportation Improvement District, that's the TID. But I said the same thing and I pushed on it. So we contacted Thomas Graham, who is the contact person for the funding, and Bill went ahead and worked with him. But he seemed, I do agree with you, he seemed a little, how do we do this? Do we have to resubmit the whole application? And after going back and forth with Verandis and then also with Mr. Lozier with the TID, we got these numbers, we submitted it, and Mr. Graham felt it was adequate.
Okay, and then one other thing real quick, you stated the street lighting, you guys were deciding what kind we want. I still say that we're long past when we should have public input, because the public should be providing their input of what kind of lighting they want, if they want trees, if they want, it's almost like we're completing this engineering and it's gonna be, hey, what's your opinion, but this is what we're doing.
Well, as you know, I've always been supportive of an open house, but first of all, we had to consider it within the budget. So a lot of that, determining how many lights we would have there, also light intrusion, we wanted to be sensitive to that, so a lot of that, but I'm all in favor of having an open house if they can get some schematics or some renderings of what this would look like and then have public input, much like we did. But some of this will be driven by budget. And that was the main thing, was on this extension, is to submit that so that we, a reasonable amount that we can get that additional funding. Otherwise, the road will stop at the culvert as you go east. If we get this additional funding, it will go as far as the property, the western property line of the High Point development. So this improvement will not go all the way to US 40 on the east side at this time. I do have a meeting scheduled for next Monday with our attorneys regarding the Scannell project, and we are also, our planning and zoning consultant is working to get the actual construction plans and some detailed plans as it relates to the sound wall.
Regarding Scannell, I do have a question. I've seen email communications and they still do not mention the Waddle property issues that were raised a month or so ago, and when we did the walkthrough, they were not aware of those. Are those being addressed?
Is that the water?
The water, yeah. The water, I guess, intrusion, you want to say, onto his property, where now it's staying soggy. He was trying to work with the developer for, I think, over 2 years without success. And
does he have correspondence? Do we have that correspondence?
He corresponded with me. I forwarded it to Mr. Latella. He said he would take care of it. And I haven't seen anything. When we did the walkthrough, nobody on site knew anything about it. I just want to make sure that in all the items that are being addressed with the slope of the ditch and in other areas, that this is also addressed.
Very good. The park pond, Mr. Evans?
Yes, on the last update, I indicated that upon speaking to the EPA, there's no permit required for maintenance, dredging, and that. It is recommended to dredge it to give more depth so it can operate properly, it won't algae over. I started doing some due diligence, collecting what other municipalities and entities have done for requests for quotes. I've reached out to Soil and Water, Linda Nicodemus there, regarding any input they could provide in that, but I think we will need the prosecutor. So if it's the board's pleasure that we're going to address the pond condition now, which I believe we should, and dredge it, that, you know, we look at this process, and I would need approval to work with the prosecutor on that. And then also, one of the things with that is we can put the spoils on the park land, but we just have to make sure it's not in a wetland area. They suggested having a wetland delineation performed. As I know, I think that has not been done yet with parkland. I think EMH&T is one of the agencies that can do that in-house. So are there any plans to do that with the park to determine what usable land there is with the easements and that?
Well, that was brought up at the last meeting, and I let Jim Jackowitz with the MHCNT know about that, so he's going to have another update. We were going to have a meeting, I believe, on July 18th, and that's been moved to August at the request of Mr. Jackowitz. So that should be one item that I mentioned to him, plus some other ones regarding the types of funding that are available for parks. And so that if there's anything else that you would like to have discussed at that committee, please. forward.
Okay, but right now, like I said, if we want to move forward with the request for quotes and getting that together, all the paperwork, because it is pretty specific there. I moved to have that authority with the prosecutor.
What is the question we're asking the prosecutor?
To draw up the bid documents for the request for a quote in conjunction with soil and water
A quote to,
dredge.
okay, do we want to do the wetland? If you're going to dredge it and take that soil out, aren't you going to have the wetland delineation first so that you don't?
Well, you can either truck it out or place it. If we place it and disturb more than an acre, then we'll have to get a permit through soil and water. So, I mean, what we could do is place it and mound it, and then determine, depending on what we do with the park, we can deal with that. But I think with as complicated and specific as this needs to be, we need to start working on the requirements and that, so we have it ready to go.
And would the prosecutor be prepared to deal with that as a special?
I don't know, I have not reached out because you're the contact, and
Right.
so I can't.
Has Soil and Water provided any information or direction to them?
Linda Nicodemus did when she responded. She was at home. She said they might have some items back at the office that they could provide, but I feel confident that they would be able to provide that needed information. But then again, based on, I've been pulling other jurisdictions, requests for quotes for similar, a lot of them are larger, and I think between that we can move forward.
I'll second the motion for you to pose your question to the prosecutor, but please copy all three trustees.
That's
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes. Motion passes. The Etna Township Zoning Commission public hearing will be July 30th, 2024 at 6 p.m. This has to do with the text amendment that came from our zoning commission, but also the recommendation that came from the Lincoln County Planning Commission, and that's on A, B, LB, and GB. And so that will be on July 30th, 2024. And then from that public hearing, the zoning commission will make their recommendation to the trustees, and we'll have a subsequent public hearing by the trustees.
And I just have a question on that. A couple things. I know it misses the ORC date again. I think we got to be a little more cognizant of that. But
What's that? I didn't hear.
it's missing the ORC.
Yeah.
They were supposed to have a hearing by
Yes.
the 15th.
Yes, I talked to the prosecutor, I checked with that, and again, the prosecutor indicated that while those dates are very important, that if you substantively meet those dates, then it won't be a fatal flaw, because I had the same concern, so I've already checked that.
Right, but I think scheduling wise, we could deal with it on time. But my question is, the recommendation by the Planning Commission was not to adopt it because they went to too many high-level things, and that is the focus, and they couldn't just drop it. We got to continue the process. My concern is there's things that we need to address before they happen, kind of like the ready mix plant. I wish we were able to do before, but like the other fueling, the semi trucks and that, right now they're allowed in a large portion of 40 and 310. Is the plan going to be to focus on the things that we can and need to get through, and then kind of go through that, all the other individual uses?
The recommendation from our planning and zoning consultant was that we move forward with McBride Dale, and that when looking at these specific things that we do it in a global fashion, I'm not asking for approval tonight, but that's been tabled for several meetings now. I think that would be the best methodology moving forward. Like I said, we have to go ahead now and go through this process on these. As I mentioned at the last meeting, it was discovered that it was the former zoning inspector that initiated that, and I think we had a lot of good feedback from the Lincoln County Planning Commission. So I give our zoning commission credit for moving forward with that and working on it, but obviously there were some serious concerns from the county.
Okay, well, again, I would hope, and I'm sure the zoning commission knows which ones are maybe like the residential hotel that we wound up, they submitted it, then we had to get it out. The same thing Ready Mix, that whatever ones are in there that we can address before I don't want to throw the whole thing out and waste all the time and have somebody come in and stick semi-fueling in a location that it shouldn't be.
Then I think if you have specific ones you want the zoning commission to consider as far as an amendment to what has been submitted, then I suggest you get that list to them, and then if there's anything else that the zoning commission, but I think we also need to work with our in-house consultant on that as well. Fire district report?
Yeah, I forwarded the meeting packet to the board previously. I was not able to make this meeting due to a family medical procedure that went longer than expected, so I wasn't able to get up there. But I will report that the district did vote to put on the ballot a 4 mil levy for additional funds because costs are increasing everywhere, and especially with all the abatements, tips, and that directing money away from schools and the fire district is become critical to get additional funding. So we have that, and then additionally, we have a new fire chief. He was the assistant chief, so Chief Jack Trenish, Chief Todd Majors is now one of the assistant chiefs.
Anything else?
No, as soon as I requested a recording of the meeting, I'm going to listen to that, get an update on some other things, and I could provide another report at the next time.
Very good, thank you. Park committee meeting has been moved to August. We don't have a date yet. Once we get that, we'll post that. Old business. What's the board's pleasure on resolution 2024-026?
You tabled it last time. I don't know if you're ready or not, or...
Well, I'm ready for discussion, but I've done some additional research, so I'll move to remove it from the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please, on removing from the table.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes. Yeah, I had a chance to talk to Mr. Vogel with the Ohio Department of Transportation. I guess my question on this is this, the summary and payable invoice on Global Way. This is the Global Way extension. The total project cost was $941,000 and change, and the township wrote a check for $965,000. So to AHS. So why are we?
Because the way this works is, and this was done on, I believe it was Schuster Way also, that the township pays for this, but we're taking a loan from them, so we actually had to pay. So they sent us a check in that exact amount, and we just returned it right back to them. It's part of the process. We did it, I believe Schuster Way, I think it was $1 million, it was another close to $1 million. And that's the way it's set
Well,
up.
how much was this project?
It was listed on the submission to ODOT for this grant reimbursement. I know the 629 portion was, I believe, 30% of the applicable cost. And this other 100,000, which would be 95,000, what was attributable to what was left. So we didn't pay them. If you look, we received that 900 and I don't know, 987 or 967. And then that's when Julie immediately FedExed it back. A check from us. So we deposited that 900 and some thousand, almost $1 million, and then it went right back. Because we had to have those expenses. So what they did is they loaned us that money. We paid it back, but we still have to pay back the balance of it. And that's where, again, just like Tollgate, I think it's $1 million, close to $2 million. That's a loan we have with the developer to pay for those road costs that a lot of people don't understand.
Well, where are those loan documents? I've never seen them.
That's our total lack of any records system here, and it's, I mean, even our new zoning consultant says there's records that should take 15 minutes, take days, weeks.
Mr. Evans, I'm painfully aware of that, but I've not seen any of those loan records and everything. That you're saying we have an outstanding loan?
Oh, we have Schuster Way on Tollgate. Yep.
I knew on those, but I didn't know. Do we know what the balance on this one is? I mean, I don't know. I'm not putting the fiscal officer on the spot, but do we have you dealt with any of that?
None of our general funds we're required to pay to them. It comes from the judge at Z,
Right.
629. It's all delineated in the agreements. Like I said, the only problem with this one is there was no written agreement that we could find, that we could, so assuming there was not.
Bless you.
And I would have hoped that if you had questions about it, you would have raised it before the meeting so we can kind of move forward, but
Well, we can't discuss it outside of the meeting.
you can ask for information.
I tried to get a meeting with the legal counsel this past Monday, and they could not make that date, so I meet with them next Monday. But I'm not ready to sign a check for $95,000 when I don't even know the numbers of what we still owe, how much we've already paid. You're saying they wrote us a check and then we wrote them one back, but here it says it's an invoice, so, and the total project cost was $941,000. So I'd like to see some loan documents, and I'm not disagreeing that apparently we don't have those documents readily available, but we need to get those. So I moved the table. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Roll call, please, to
Mr.
table.
Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes. I mean, these are the kinds of things, we've got to get the details and see exactly what we owe and what
But I
needs to
would,
be I mean, we're making a new agreement, there was never agreement, now we're going retroactively to make a new agreement and then pay $95,000.
I would just suggest, and this goes to why I requested the thing on communication, that if you put it out there, does anybody have information on this? We cannot discuss items, but we can provide information,
Very good.
which we have before, so.
The item's tabled and we'll continue to research it. Insurance discussion, Mr. Evans.
Yeah, I appreciate finally getting that life insurance thing in. We've got most of the employees' paperwork in. We've got a little bit outstanding. There's going to be a meeting on July 23rd at lunch at 11:30 for all employees, and it's going to, Michelle is going to be here from Acrisure to kind of answer any questions, explain how everything works. Since some people had some questions, I believe we should provide lunch for employees or whoever's going to be there. Just want to see who's going to be there. I'm not sure if my schedule is going to allow me to attend. So I don't know if Mr. Burkholder, you want to arrange lunch or not that day. I think we're going to have it here at Town Hall. And again, it'd be Michelle Crockett from Acrisure, the road crew, and you and anybody else that has
May I
questions.
speak?
Yes.
I set that up from July 23rd at 11:30, and I asked on the email if I could provide lunch for the road crew, because they do have questions. And Michelle is gonna come in and show them how to set it up, so that they don't have to send a whole bunch of paperwork in to get their money back, so.
I'm supportive of all of that, Mr. Evans. If you can make it and want to make it, that'd be great since you dealt with it. But I'm supportive with the meeting and lunch, and I think the fiscal officer was going to coordinate that, so
Can I have a motion to buy lunch?
so moved.
Or do I need it?
Well, you've got $500 spending authority, so.
Okay.
You probably don't need it, but yeah, go ahead. Very good. Employee evaluations. Oh, I'm sorry. It's still on the table. I'm not going to take it off the table right now with probably Dale Clarion. I probably will get a recommendation though from our planning consultant, or at least a memo on why I'd like to see us move forward on that for discussion at the next meeting. And new business.
Well, Can we go back to
A whole
that
bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
quickly?
Yes.
With the large cost of that $70,000, I think we should kind of reach out and get requests for quotes from other firms. Like I said, that's a substantial amount, and not saying that they're not capable or that, but I think it would be good to speak to others.
then we'll have to do an RFQ if that's what you want to do. Is that what you want to do?
We can, or we can just seek out other firms. But request for quotes puts it out there and lets anybody submit it, and then we could.
Well, if you're gonna go out for quotes, I think there's a process you have to follow in the advertising. And I think you have to also do that if it's a request for qualifications. So if that's the desire of the board, we can do that. It will delay it, but if that's the desire of the board, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, honestly, the rewriting of the zoning, we need to handle the other stuff first. I mean, we don't even have the plan, the comp plan on the agenda. And so again, I think cart before the horse on
Well,
that.
you got all your changes to Mr. Leonard, correct?
Yeah, but when are we talked about having an open house. I pushed before, we didn't. Now we're gonna have kind of an open house. So I think that really it's important for our future. And
I agree, Mr. Evans, but what's your pleasure? Do you want to have an open house, and when do you want to have it? I'm not opposed.
most definitely open house. We gotta
Okay.
advertise it. We gotta get more than 5 people here.
When do you want it?
Oh, I'm not sure. Don't we have to include Ms. McKee?
We can, yeah, absolutely, but I'm just trying to get some ideas here at the meeting. I don't disagree with
Well,
any of
I'd
it.
say first of all, we need to get I still haven't received the map of the proposed zoning districts or you know.
The future land use,
Yep, I still haven't gotten that.
have you corresponded with Mr. Leonard?
Do you want me to run again?
You've requested, I thought he said he was gonna
Whenever.
email that out to you.
Did not receive it. Do you have a copy of that?
No, I don't. I've got the,
Well, should the board have a copy of that then?
well, sure, but I'm asking you, you requested it, and you're telling me he didn't send it out.
Yeah, we requested it at the meeting.
And you got your other changes.
And
to
it wasn't sent out, and and I forwarded the
Okay.
pavement management to it.
Okay, good, that's what he wanted. I'll have to follow up with him and see what we want to do with that.
But I'm surprised, I would think the full board should get that. And
Well, absolutely. Refugee Road, some new things there. There may need to be a modification to the intergovernmental agreement. There apparently is going to be an additional cost for right-of-way that Microsoft, they're going to need more right-of-way, and Microsoft will not budge on that price. So there could be an additional cost of around $95,000 to $100,000. which would need to be split between the city of Pataskla and Etna Township. I've asked, is that going to take a modification of the IGA? It will not exceed the amount that we're getting from the State Infrastructure Bank, but it appears it's going to exceed the amount that was agreed upon in the IGA between Pataskla and Etna. So I've not, this just is a recent development, so I've not gotten any information on that as whether we do or don't have to modify that. The other issue is, does the board want to replace the stone on the roundabout at Mink and Refugee? If you compare that to the nice stone that is over at the Parkway, which we requested the city, but there will be an additional cost to that, and that our half would be 25 grand to remove that stone and put the nicer stone in there, which, by the way, Mr. Evans, you've seen it, the weeds growing up through it. Pataskla seems to be supportive of that, and that additional cost wouldn't have to come out of our pocket, but it would be part of the loan.
Question about the IG modification, the right of way.
Right.
Wasn't that determined and secured by the prior owner, and why would it change because they sold it? Wasn't that agreed to and worked out?
Apparently not, and apparently when Microsoft purchased that ground, now they're going to need additional right-of-way. So this was just a recent development, so the county engineer brought it up. I think they're going to put some in, and as I've explained it, is how it was explained to me. That it's going to exceed the IGA, which I think they may, both entities may have to sign off on that.
Okay. I'm just concerned because, I mean, throughout the process, for the bond calculation, a mortgage calculator was used. I'm concerned that proper due diligence isn't being done, and we're getting these mistakes, and it's just
Well,
costing.
this was before you and I weren't involved in this, correct, Mr. Evans?
Well, I was until I was removed, but
Yes, okay. So I'm not casting blame on anyone. I'm just saying now we have a situation
All right.
which I'm bringing to the board, which we're gonna have to make a decision.
okay. And then regarding the stone, I saw the new stone, the prettier stone. I really think we could do better for the area. I mean, we're almost treating it like a flip house. Like, throw some stone in there. If you look at anybody else's roundabout, there's some grass, trees, bushes,
Well,
whatever. Even Newark, or Heath or Newark, I saw one was on in the Newark Advocate. It was all flowers.
Yeah, well, here's the deal, Mr. Evans. If you're willing to pay for that, then those recommendations should have come forward. But the problem is, it also has to be maintained by Pataskla. It's my understanding by agreement. So if they say we're not going to maintain it, and I pushed very hard to make it look better, and the point is, how much money do you want to spend, and how much do? And I'm not opposed. I agree. Those with flowers and everything, it looks great. This all should have been hammered out long before you and I got here and involved in the project, and it wasn't. And now, it's going to cost extra money. But the one at Main Street is, in my opinion, is simply unacceptable.
Well, the one at Etna Parkway, I mean, that was changed. So we could have changed it to something better. There were decisions made. I've been pushing for something better, some vegetation. You don't have to go crazy, but again, it's little things can make a big difference in how people feel in the area and about the development of that. So
We're on the same page there, but this project was moving very quickly, and it was like, hey, we can still change it now, but what's it gonna be? So, but the other one, it's a question. I mean, are we, I'll have to bring the IGA back, but I'll make a motion that if we still can at this late date, that we agree to pay half of the cost to replace the stone at the Mink Street roundabout.
is it really better?
Is there a second?
No, there's no. I don't think it's any better.
What do you mean? It's totally different, the type of stone.
It's stone.
One's-
I just don't think
So-
it's needed. So I
there a
won't
second?
second now.
Okay, motion fails. We'll move on. Employee evaluations.
Yeah, I asked for this because the employee evaluations haven't been done. I think it's important that, to retain the employees that, we talk to them. between the union contract and our handbook. There should have been an evaluation at the end of the probationary period, and then on an annual basis. I know some have hit their annual in April. I just think that we need to.
What's the contract say?
The contract mentions the probationary period, the possible extension of, I think, 30 days. I think it's section, is it L? It mentions a portion, but not specifically the evaluations, but the employee handbook covers the evaluation specifically.
Have they been done in the last 2 years?
I don't think the road crew, last year it wasn't, right? There were no evaluations last year, Bubba, and none this year. So we're behind. I know I did in 22.
They're in their file.
They should be.
I think we'll have to look at it.
And even the part-time zoning inspector, I think he's been back for over a year since February. I just think it's just proper HR, talk to the employees, see how they're doing, and especially if we have probationary periods, that's the time that you say, okay, you're going to continue, or no, there's been these issues, we're going to extend it. We're not doing any of that.
New Community Authority update. We had a meeting here tonight. It appears they took a vote, and they're going to go ahead and do the next round of assessment for the new Community Authority. Are there any other questions or comments on that, Mr. Evans?
I did, and I brought this up before. I'm still concerned about the legal fees being paid at $590 an hour. It's eating up quite a bit of the funds coming in. I mean, I don't agree with Mr. Sabatino much, but he's brought up that concern also about the fees. The attorney is hired and paid for by the township. I believe these aren't unique entities here, and I think cheaper and adequate representation can be found.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I think since you're the contact for legal, if you speak to our legal firm, if they can handle it at probably half the cost, or. And again, I don't know if the NCA can just go out and, instead of using our attorney, hire their own attorney and keep at $590 an hour. I don't know, but I've raised this concern for a while.
I'll make a motion to set 3 special trustee meetings for the purpose of interviewing candidates for the township administrator position. That would be Monday, July 22nd at 5:30 p.m. That would be Wednesday, July 24th at 5:30 p.m. And that would be Thursday, July 25th at 5:30 p.m. For the purpose of those interviews. Is there a second?
Well, yeah, I'll second, but I thought we already decided on this and the candidates were already.
The candidates have been contacted, but I wanted it official so that the public would know, because we're going to have to do notices for these special meetings. But yes, the consultant asked all 3 trustees what dates would be convenient. These came back, and now we're preparing the agendas for that, but I wanted to get it on the public record that we're setting those special meetings and the purpose. So, roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Resolution 2024 to approve purchase orders.
035.
035, so moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll move to amend to remove the $95,000 payment. Is there a second?
I also have a question on the Burker and Graydon, 30,000.
Right.
So can we have discussion, then we can make motions, or?
Oh, yeah, go ahead on the discussion.
Okay.
You seconded it, right?
Yeah, well, for the
Okay, I'll
entire-
withdraw the amendment at this time. Yeah, we need additional funding on that because we have several cases that they're dealing with as well.
So
So
there-
I was advised by the fiscal officer, so the question of whether those were approved separately, I don't know off the top of my head as far as the purchase. You're saying that
No, they weren't.
they weren't, okay.
No,
You mean
there's-
Two
the,
cases?
The BZA cases up to 20, wasn't up to
it was
25,000?
up to 30,000. With this last bill, you're like at 40-something.
Was that in addition to our original from the first of the year, though?
There was original 30, and then there was the BZA case,
The BZA case was 30,
correct. But the original
And this
record
is-
grade back in January was 30.
but this is the BZA stuff.
Right.
So the extra 30 is for the BZA.
Okay.
And how much-
That's my concern, because I do have, there's been some things going to brick and grain that I think, like public records and that the prosecutor should handle. So I just don't, we need to use the
We're
prosecutor.
dealing with that in that regard because the board decided on that, but when it comes to something that has records that deal with litigation, I think it makes sense to keep it with the attorney handling the
Correct.
litigation. Okay, but the other, we did vote on that, you and Mrs. McKee, and I agree that what we can send to the prosecutor, we will.
Well, I think that, I mean, it shouldn't take, but just anything we can send to the prosecutor should. Brick or grain is just for economic special case. It shouldn't be used just as in the past of, hey, I just want to ask him a question.
So you're good with the additional
Yeah,
purchase? Okay.
and removal of the,
Okay. Second, any further discussion?
and, well, one question.
Go ahead.
We could have the PO, doesn't mean we're approving to pay it. Why won't we have it and then you just don't use it? She's going to have to keep making POs.
I'm fine with that as far as keeping it.
So it takes a board vote to expend
So
it.
now we're keeping it?
You can keep it, but obviously it won't be issued because we haven't approved the payment. That way you don't have to continue to void it. We'll void it if we don't approve that payment, so. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes, motion passes. I'll move to ratify the payment of the bills as shown on the payment listing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion, questions?
You first, and he second, right?
SOS,
Correct.
$60. That seems odd.
What was that on?
Security Operations System,
Is it just a random fee?
yes.
Well, that would have been, that's probably on the monitoring on, yeah, it is.
Monitoring,
Because it's a different company than state security. That's SOS.
that's
And
3
that-
months of monitoring,
Yeah.
$20 a piece.
Okay.
And that was cheaper, which is why we didn't switch it over. Because to switch it over was going to be $30 a month.
How much is the garage? The garage one isn't even set up. Nobody's provided any access to that, or that costs a pretty penny. All right, I'm good.
Roll call.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes. Motion passes. Ms. Cantuino, you want to bring up Julian and group?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion that we stay with Julian and Grube as our state auditors that do our auditing for the township. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? I'll-
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I'll let Ms. Cantuino go first because she has some comments, and then you, Mr. Evans.
I just feel that we should stick with Julian and Group for this year because I have spoke with them and she is helping me out a lot. And also they know our system and it's easier to ask questions than going to somebody new and trying to start all over with someone new. So I'd like to stay with them.
And I think they're going to change anyways right after
Yeah,
this.
they'll change anyway after 2024.
After 2024.
We have to change. We go into an IPA.
So I know we talked about the last meeting, but I support it for the continuity and the efficiency, and there is a working relationship, and they seem to have done a good job for us for many, many years, very professional. And I know Ms. Varian worked with them very closely too, and they were very supportive in a lot of her questions, so.
I've got concerns staying with them just because of longevity. Firms and individuals get complacent, not saying they are, but auditors should change. I believe we've been with them, what, 8 years?
You're only allowed to be with them 10. Yes.
Right, but I'm saying 8 years, and that's why then for the 23, 24, they'd be timed out and that. I think we're at the max, so my vote would be to change, get fresh eyes on the books, especially with our records being the way they are, and that it would be good to get fresh eyes, and that would be my.
Well, I respectfully disagree only because we've had so much change now. And as I said before, I'm in here every day. I'm watching the day-to-day operations, and we need a little bit of continuity and stability. So I understand we're going to change in 2 years anyway, but we've got to try to work with our employees and with our fiscal officer to give them the kind of support, and it is about relationships. And when you start changing, then it's a whole new system, and that just adds more work and more time. And I'll be honest, given our situation, the number of people that have left, the turnover, the fact we're still trying to fill some positions, overloading our staff is not in the best interest of the township. So I'm going to be voting to stick with them.
Okay. Well, like I said, auditors, familiarity is not always good.
Well, that's fine, but these are professionals who take an oath, and they have ethical standards and requirements. So changing everything just because for the sake of change is not in the best interest of the township. And I say it because I want to support our fiscal officer. And I think we have to have some confidence. I know she's working extremely hard trying to learn the system. And this company has proven to be very responsive to the needs of the township. So for this 2 years, it's the right thing to do.
Well, you could still have the CPA and the audit firm can be different.
Well, it's easy to give assignments, Mr. Evans, but you're not the one that always has to complete the task. And I see how hard our employees work and the challenges that we have. So I guess I'm kind of being pretty adamant about this, but it's what our fiscal officer has requested, and I think we owe it to her to give her the support so that we have a smooth audit this time, and so she can continue to learn more about the UAN system and has that familiar relationship and support with Julian and group. Unless you've got some specific reason you claim that they haven't done their job.
I have several reasons. It's not just for one. Again, even the state makes you after 10 years. 10 years, they're saying, okay, that's enough. You have to change. 8 years, you're getting there. But again, all they do is what they're requesting, what they're looking for. The production's same. It's just a fresh set of eyes. It's based on my experience in corporate audits, corporate tax, and the other prior audits, I would feel more comfortable with the new set of eyes. Even when I first came on here, there was a big call for having a full audit, fiscal full audit. So this is just getting new eyes and that, so I'll be voting no.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes. Motion fails, so now what happens?
Can I vote? I mean, I'm the one that's got to work with these things, so.
Well, contact the state auditor and find out, tell them that it was, the motion failed to stick with them. I don't know that automatically means we have to change. And maybe when Ms. McKee comes back, we can go ahead and take a vote and get 2 votes to stick with them, so.
I would prefer that.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any transfers or anything else from the fiscal officer at this time?
No.
Very good, thank you. Post public comments, limited 2 minutes per person. Anyone that'd like to speak at this time, please come up. Same routine, name, address.
John Kennard, 10785 Palmer Road, Pataskla. I still have a concern about our finances. Ever since Mr. Transparent has gotten involved in the Etna Township finances, we have never heard during the financial report how much money is in our checking account, how much money was spent this month, how much money was brought in this month. That's kind of how I balance my budget. I don't try to spend more than I got coming in. I seen on Facebook once somebody reported that we spent like over $200,000 more than we brought in a month or so ago. And that's my concern, you know, when our financial, nothing against our financial officer, but it just seems like all we do is a resolution to approve the purchase orders and modify the payments. And then it says something about transfers. So that's my concern with the financial report. I would like to, we used to, back in the day, we used to have someone say, our balance is $1 million. We spent $50,000. We had $100,000 income, you know. Last I heard, there was like $5 million in the treasurer, so I don't know if that's still true or not, but it's kind of kept undercover from the residents. And I still think, I'm still concerned about our maintenance. We've got building maintenance issues right now. Mr. Evans brought up maintenance issues probably just about a year ago. And that door over there is still decaying, falling apart. Other building maintenance is still going neglected. He was assigned to take care of that matter and haven't seen any results yet. Thank you.
Mr. Kennard, I think you brought up a very good concern. I know the fiscal officer's been working on that. I remember those days. I agree, and working with her, getting familiar with the system to get those reports, but I agree. What have we brought in? What have we expended? And how much do we have in reserves?
I will have you that the next one.
Yeah, but there is an ebb and flow. Sometimes you spend more because the payments are coming due. You haven't got your property taxes in from the county. And then also when it comes to the JED and JEDZs, which produce a lot of income for the township, sometimes those disbursements don't take place but on a quarterly basis. But it's a fair question. It's a good question. I did meet with some gentlemen today that did do an evaluation of the maintenance on this building, and they have some recommendations. I didn't want to spring them on the board tonight, but I'll be presenting those at the next meeting. I also wanted to answer some of your questions. You had some good ones about the roundabout. The roundabouts, why we only have a single lane. I was told at a recent meeting with ODOT and with Pataskla officials that they felt that, or not them, but apparently there wasn't enough traffic to justify the two. I know there's disagreement about that mounting, that you can't see people, but one of the reasons they said is they don't want people, if it's totally flat, to basically just drive through those rather than doing the roundabout. And I think there is a difference in the thickness of the concrete from the Mink Street to the Parkway. There is a bond on the Mink Street. I believe all of the super loads are going to go through Mink Street now, and there is a bond in case that the county engineer put on that in case there's any damage. But I wanted a chance to respond to your question, so thank you.
And I'd just like to say, I have requested the Q2 report, financial reports, budgets. Where we're at, I do know the former fiscal officer provided a manual. It's a simple report off of UAN. You can just generate it in that. I think it's important that we stay updated and follow what the income is and what we're expending, especially with all these higher cost consultants and outside firms. We're engaging that we're supposed to be temporary so we can fill employees, but we're having a challenge doing that. That's where I would still push for board read-only access to the UAN, so if we have questions, we can go in there. But I would hope by next meeting we could have the Q2 report, see where we're tracking on budget and the other matters.
Very good. Before we go into an executive session, let me start with some announcements. We'll have them after executive session as well, but next trustee meeting is Tuesday, August 6th. There is a BZA public hearing this Wednesday, July 17th at 6 p.m. And we had the new community authority meeting here tonight, and we don't have the date yet for the park committee. So with that said, I'll move to go into executive session per Ohio Revised Code 121.22G to consider the employment of a public employee. Is there a second?
That's G1, but
I'm
yes.
sorry, G1. Oh yeah, here it is, G1. To consider the employment of a public employee. Is there a second?
Oh, yes.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes. Motion passes. We're in executive session at 7:22 p.m. There may be action after the executive session. Just let the public know if you want to stay around.
There's no resolution.
Move to come out of the executive session at 7:36 p.m. Is there a second?
No second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes. Motion passes. Is there a motion to hire Holly Palumbo as a full-time permanent employee?
Do we have a resolution? It says resolution.
We do not. It'd be by motion.
What's her salary and start date?
$25 per hour, and with a start date contingent on what we have exceeded the 600 hours with Dawson, so I would have to check and see what's still being billed out on that. As soon as possible.
Wouldn't it be better sooner? Aren't we expending more with Dawson than?
Oh, no, I mean as soon as possible, immediately.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes,
Can we possibly start her Monday, because that's a new pay period?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So start date on Monday?
The 22nd?
Yes.
Correct.
And is she aware of all the probationary period and vacation and all that stuff?
That's certainly advisory. I know there's been a vacation change, but we've not had extended discussions due to her absence. But I have talked to her, and she wants to become a full-time employee here. She enjoys working here, and she's been made a great contribution as an administrative assistant. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Roll
Nope.
call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes, thank you. Okay, back to announcement and trustee comments.
Well, one thing on the zoning inspector
Yes.
and applications, I know it was late, but we got the Indeed advertisements going on there. Do we want to continue those? And do we want to reach out to other like Jobs Ohio or GovJobs? I think it's GovJobs. There's a few other sites we can. The 3 zoning applicants that had experience pulled their applications. And I'm just concerned that we're not going to fill it if we don't really do some outreach here.
Yeah, I'm fine with any other things. We can check back with OML, OCMA. I don't know if the ICMA, and I think there's also a code enforcement zoning website organization. I don't know how active that website is, and maybe also check with the universities, anyone that's coming out and wants to get their feet wet in the world of zoning and code enforcement. That might be another option as well.
I'd like to see experienced inspectors, but,
Well, I would like experienced inspectors too, but there are a lot of bright people out there that want to get some experience, and they can read and they've studied, and sometimes getting someone new with less experience that you can train and kind of guide them, particularly since we have an in-house consultant now, Mr. Schultz, who's working out very well. Sometimes you can train them and work with them. I know we're doing a lot of things just as a way of a brief report. There's a lot of things on iWork that we're still trying to use that wasn't necessarily fully used in the past. Holly has experience in that. Mr. Schultz is working with Mr. Latella to better organize our code enforcement officer to get those permits and those requests in more timely, but also doing a significant amount of research on a lot of different calls that we get regarding what is allowed and what isn't allowed. Can it be allowed as a conditional use? So yeah, any kind of outreach, but I'm open-minded if we get a bright person that says, I want to get some experience in the real world, and I think the salary reflects that someone with maybe certifications, but also maybe a degree in urban planning, I think they might be a good fit for us as well.
okay. Like I said, I'm just concerned about the high costs of the consultant right now, and we should have had this filled long ago. And then the only thing I'll ask is that we have proper communication with the applicants so they don't pull their applications next time.
That's fine, and but even if we get a code enforcement officer, I recommend that we keep our consultant, because that was our original discussion anyways, that we needed someone with that high-level skill. And when you talk about technical reviews and those things, we do need a consultant, and it's actually cheaper than using the outside consultant, so it's already producing benefits. But as you have noted, Mr. Evans, there's a lot of records that need to be organized, finding permits, what the system is. A lot of that information's on paper. It's not necessarily into the computer. So we are making strides that when these applications come in, that we put the proper documentation within the zoning software, rather than just trying to put it in a folder and find it later. So, anything else?
And there's just trustee comments, again, kind of piggyback on that. I've heard from several that we're not going to be able to bring anybody in unless they have a place to work right now. That zoning office can accommodate really one person. Another one's at a 4-foot desk. If we're going to ask somebody to work here, we got to give them a proper workstation. Even with the intern working here, it's just not productive, I think. The other thing, I'm still concerned about records request production. I haven't seen any movement on that. Again, prosecutor opinions, I've requested several. Roland Road, the sign, haven't seen any response on that. Loop Road and all that. Mr. Burkholder, you're the contact for that. So I would hope that I and the residents can get a response on that. I do think we need to have an Etna deputy evaluation. We're spending a lot of money on deputies that patrol only Etna, but I would like to verify that we're getting extra coverage with them, not supplanting just regular coverage. Because again, it's 4 deputies. I think we only have 3 right now. It hasn't been reviewed for a while, so I think we need to do that. The refugee road.
Let me ask what was done in the past on that as far as an evaluation. When's the last time we evaluated the services?
We haven't. I've been asking for some reports on responses, and
okay, so
it's on our days off, but I think that the sheriff's department should be able to, because when I was a resident, I thought, nighttime, there were 20 deputies roaming the county, and that there might be 5. And I just want to make sure that our deputies are extra on top of what the county's providing. And they might be doing it, but I think it's our due diligence to do it.
What's your proposal? What's your request then? How do we go about that?
Well, if we talk to Lieutenant Carson and maybe see I'm sure they have reports of their manpower, where they're at, where they're scheduled,
Well,
where.
I'll move that you follow up on that. Is there a second?
Sure,
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
All right, refugee reimbursement for tire damage, you had indicated
I did.
you would follow on that. The individual has not heard back from
Well, I
anybody.
contacted Miller Brothers, and I've not heard back from them, so we can continue. Miller Brothers is the contact. I brought it up to the TID director, and we still haven't, we have a meeting, I believe, next week they had the information. It was brought up at the meeting. The safety director was supposed to get back to him. We can bring it up again. I mean, I can't force them to go out there, but I was pretty adamant that they needed to follow up, and they have the information that you forwarded, Mr. Evans. So.
Yeah, I just think for a $10 million project, I think it's requested $400 or $500.
I understand. I just want you to know the efforts that have been made to try to get that person. Did you have photographs of?
Yeah, those were provided.
And Mr. Lozier has them?
Mr. Lozier has them in that. However, you're the contact with the TID. The contractor works for their TID, so that should be pursued there. I did have a question about fireworks again. I've been getting a lot of questions about our alternate locations being sought. I would hope that they are.
What are they?
What, the alternate locations?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why we are they being sought?
Well-
Has there been any contact with Hamburg, the fireworks
No, there is
vendor?
not. Do you want to take that on too?
Sure, I'll take that on too.
Okay, great.
I just mentioned email use. I've seen some forms that still using the Etna Township at etnatownship.com. We should be going towards the office at and the zoning at. It still goes in the same email box. It's just more simplicity. Procedure manual, I think we need, I understand Holly's been out on that, but that's one of the reasons that when she was absent, having that procedure manual, and we're, 196 days in, we should have some of these things down.
I will address the furniture though. Mr. Evans, I've already talked to the consultant and to both Holly and Mr. Latella. The setup is working. To say it's not professional, it is professional. And if we're going to talk about professional then I ask that you follow up on getting the conference chairs fixed. I haven't said anything because you're busy, I'm busy, we're all busy. But if you want to continue to persist though, we've got to spend that money. We've got to have that professional. It's working. I talked to the consultant who has 25 years experience. He said, this is great. We're working in the same room. There's back and forth. Clients can still come in. So like I said before, the operation is working. And to say that it isn't is a false statement. We don't need any more disruption in the zoning office. We're trying to bring stability. But we voted on this once. And you're so upset because you didn't get your way that you're just going to continue to hammer to spend $9,000 and you won't even repair the chairs. No. We have professionals, let me finish for a change. We have professionals come in here. You complained for 2 years about the chairs in here. You took the assignment on. I know you're busy, and now you refuse to follow through and execute on it. But instead, you want to hammer on the zoning department saying, well, I know better how you guys operate during the day. I'm sorry, sir, you do not know because you're not in here working with them every day. So I'm not going to support that. I'm telling you right now because they are working together, they're working well together, and there's definitely room for improvement in the level of service we provide. But I suggest you don't have any idea of how much volume and how many people walk in off the street, have a question, and we deal with every single day, even though we are short-staffed. We even have our intern working to cover that load. I'm not opposed to constructive criticism, but don't sit there and lecture me about the zoning office when you don't even know how that is operating. So I suggest you get the chairs fixed here first, and then we'll move on to other projects.
Number one, I'm trying to save us thousands of dollars on that, and it's sourcing that specific thing. If you just want to replace all the chairs hey, we could do that
No,
pretty
you said
pretty
you had the
easy. We did
cylinders.
that
You said you
here,
had the cylinders.
saving it for these.
Yeah, well, what about those?
They're different.
Okay.
It's not mix and match, but I'm going with the desk system off feedback from not just myself, others.
From
So,
whom?
I'm not gonna name them in public here.
Well, no, come on now, say,
No,
You brought it up.
no.
You have another
If they want to
source. What
speak,
you sow.
if they want to speak up, excuse me, but it's providing that, it's unorganized. It's, and you don't want to provide the organization. However,
well, Mr. Evans, we're
Like-
just gonna disagree on this one, so
Yeah,
move
I-
on. What else do you have on your criticism list?
no, this is about discussing and serving the
Go ahead,
township.
go ahead.
Mosquito spraying.
Yeah.
Are we treating the township or just a specific area? I've made some requests based on people reaching out to me, but I think we should be
I
proactive.
forwarded the ones I've gotten and forwarded them to the health department.
Right, so one neighborhood's being treated every week. Why aren't we doing that through the township? Why are we expending funds just in one neighborhood to treat every week and not everybody else? That's my concern there. And then the other thing here is the water district. Jersey and Union Township are trying to be added to the water
That
district
is
for,
correct.
to push more power out there, more, are we doing anything? Are we?
What do you suggest we do?
We're part of that district, so
I
have
know.
you spoke to legal to determine if we can do anything, if we have, because it's going to court. So
I know.
can we be represented in court saying, no, this is not, because there's been total conflict of interest on that board and directing everything up to Jersey Township, as the administrator in Jersey Township is also the paid consultant at the water district.
I share those same concerns. Do we know when it goes to court?
No,
Well, I think we need to find that out. I've not been able, given to attend those meetings, but I read that they already voted to, at least the district board has, and now it goes to court. Is there going to be a public hearing? Do you have any of the details?
nope. And that's where I would hope our legal would be able to answer that,
Do
because
you want that coming from the prosecutor or from outside counsel?
well, prosecutor can handle it.
Okay. Will do. Anything
And
else?
again, these are not criticisms. These are things that we need to address for the township, for the residents that aren't being addressed.
I don't-
And we cannot, please, we cannot speak about these outside the meeting like they have before. So that's why, all the things I just went through are the things that you refused to put on the agenda.
No, not all.
And we just went right through them like
I
that.
put some of the others on. Anything else you have, Mr. Evans?
No.
Okay, very good. I have nothing. Is there a motion to adjourn? I'll move
So
to
moved.
adjourn. Moved by Mr. Evans, second by Mr. Burkholder. We stand adjourned at 7:52.
You don't want a roll call?
Yeah, sure, why not? Don't necessarily need one, but I'll take one. Yes, yes.
I want to go home. It's 8 o'clock.